What if your problems in your business aren't people, but they're actually systems? What if the solution is right there available to you and it could actually be there before you get to the problem? Today, we're going to discover how to recognize and fix what's not working in your business before it's too late. And we have with us an expert in systems, Doug Hall, who has a lifetime of experience in developing systems for very successful businesses. Doug, it is absolutely a pleasure to have you on the Wealthability Show with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If you would, Doug, give us a little of your background. How did you start? Why this topic of all topics for somebody with your experience?
Well, growing up way back, 1979, my dad calls me into the living room and at Christmas time, and I was more excited about this lady I was engaged to, who we've been together now for 49 years. And he sat me down, and I knew it was something serious because he didn't usually do that. And he said, "Douglas, I've been working with a guy named Dr. W. Edwards Deming. He's the guy that went to Japan after World War II that created quality that is killing American industry right now." And he says, "I learned that 94% of the problems is the system, 6% is the worker." I go, "Yeah, Dad, whatever. Yeah." He said, "No, you got to listen. This is the future." Well, literally, that conversation in the living room up in New England changed my life. I was a chemical engineer. I ended up going to Procter Gamble, working in marketing of all things, with a real focus on innovation. And I slowly but surely took the work of Dr. Deming, which was grounded around factories, and I said, how do I turn this into innovation? How do I take innovation from an art, and it'll still have some art to it, but add science to it and make it a reproducible system that could enable everyone, everywhere, to innovate and to make it work. So long story short, did a lot of amazing things at P&G, shipped 18 products in 12 months, still considered a record. Left and created the Eureka Ranch, working with multinational companies and small companies, over 2,000 companies over many years, helping them increase speed and decrease risk with innovation, generally a focus on disruptive. Then a few years ago, I got this idea to create a whiskey company because I'd worked in whiskey for many years on products for companies around the world. And when I did that, I learned that the important thing about whiskey was the wood, and that 70% of the flavor comes from the wood. So what I did was I invented some technologies, created a company, and it worked. The products exploded. It went well. We went from a few thousand cases to over 100,000 cases in a year, and this is all during the craziness of COVID. But in the process, I learned that my work on innovation, which had been around the big idea, while it's useful, most of those big ideas had challenges when they tried to go through the process in the organization. And what you needed to do is you needed to get the employees engaged in the process with you in growing your business. Because I had bottlers, not fancy folks, but good people, hardworking people. And when you're doubling every 3 to 6 months, if you don't have the employees engaged, you're dead. You're dead. Because you got to have them there. They can't be disengaged. Right now, we've only got about 30 or 40% of the employees, research says, are fully engaged. We needed to get them all engaged, or we were going to die. Because myself and my co-founder, Joe Gergash, we couldn't do this by ourselves. We had to have the entire organization with us. And so that's what created what is now, the book is called Proactive Problem Solving that we're doing. We've got a workshop on it that gets ridiculous ratings from employees. And it is changing my life because I've taken all of my work doing big ideas for Nike and Disney and American Express, and now it's all about helping that worker make a difference in the organization. And the way we light them up is we say we're going to start by stopping the stupid. And we talk directly to the employees. with proactive problem solving, the first place to begin is you got to give employees something that's going to make a difference for them. So you say, what are the stupid work systems, the stupid communications, the stuff that gets in the way of you doing meaningful work to do your job? And they go, hallelujah, baby, somebody's listening to me. And suddenly you light a fire and the organization is transformed faster than you can ever imagine. You can't imagine. You hired these people because you gave a damn about it and they cared. And then they suddenly became droids. Well, what happened? Did they change or did we not ignite them? And so I am on a religious, and I apologize for getting so excited. I am on a quest right now. I didn't realize at this point in my life, I would be this fired up about taking years of work, big time stuff, and bringing it down to help employees do great things.
Now, I love that. Stop the stupid. A number of years ago, I had the extreme privilege of sitting across the dinner table from Richard Branson.
Sure.
And I said, so you've fundamentally changed multiple industries. He said, what'd you do? He said, well, first of all, we listed all the things that we didn't like. And then we did the opposite. It's not that hard.
Sorry. But yeah, and you know, what's crazy, I mean, this is like so mind-boggling. We did a survey of managers and asked, how much time do you spend each day dealing with employee mistakes and broken systems? And the data came back and I said, guys, this can't be right. I told my guys at the Eureka Ranch, I said, check this, because before I put it in proactive problem solving, before I put it in the book, I got to know that this deal is right. They went back through the data. They said it's good. I said, can you check one more time? Because their data said the average manager wastes 3.5 hours a day. That's not a week. That's not a month. Every single day, dealing with employee mistakes and broken systems. I go, oh my God. So I go out and I started talking to people and say, oh, I think that's a low estimate for me. And interestingly, 80% of that is systems. Only 20% is employee mistakes. It's not the employees that are the problem. It's the work systems. It's how we set them up to do their work. It's the resources, the training, the communication systems. Those are the things that are getting in the way of people doing meaningful work.
Yeah. So you talk about proactively, instead of being reaction to problems, proactively actually having somebody identify the problems. So can we start there? Because, the reason people are reactionary, I think, is because they're not seeing the problem until it's really too late. How do you proactively actually identify the problem before it becomes a problem?
Well, there's two elements to this. I mean, the first thing you got to do is you got to get employees to understand, because we asked employees why they weren't doing proactive problem solving, why they weren't doing it. And 7 out of 10 of them said, it's not my job and I don't know what to do. So first we've got to declare it is your job. And we start by doing the things that are hurting you, which is the stuff near you, to get you to believe that you can make a difference. And then we get them to move. And then once you build their momentum, because, once they start doing it, then amazing things start to happen with it. And managers and employees, we tell them, the way it starts, the whole process starts, is you identify what and why. You identify what is the problem. What's the thing that's frustrating you? What's the thing if you ask them what's frustrating, it's so easy. I mean, the lists are there. And they're not huge things to make a difference, but when you solve those problems, like there was a lady in one company we worked with, she said, my back hurts. I said, what do you mean your back hurts? She says, well, we build these machines and we have to lift them and put them into boxes. And there's 3 of us and we're not very big. And my back hurts at the end of the day as we load them in. That's okay. Her manager says, what do we do about this? He said, I don't know. They started to talk and they connected. And sure enough, they found that they could, instead of building the box and putting the unit in, they could take the machine, roll it onto the cardboard and build the box around the machine. So just reverse the order. And suddenly her back didn't hurt. So now she's brought that up, said what the problem was, why it was important, because it hurt them. And then we fixed it. And then she went on to another one and another one. And then the team starts believing they can make a difference. And that what and why, as it turns out, has a pedigree to the big Eureka inventing that the ranch does. Because it actually comes from the military, from something called the commander's intent. In the military, the leaders tell the troops what the mission's to accomplish and why it matters. Because when you know the why it matters, that gives you more motivation to do it, as opposed to just do this. Don't ask any questions, just do it. When I know why, you've opened me up to not just do the task, but to think. When you don't tell me why, you don't want me to think. You just want me to do it. And if you find out halfway through it's stupid, you keep going. When you know why, you say, hey, wait a minute, I've learned something. This isn't solving the problem that we need, or this is going to cause other problems for us.
So what I hear you saying is that go to the employees, have them discuss what their problems are and come up with the solutions for the problems, and then you build the system around that.
Yeah, so you fix the system, fix the broken systems that the employees have. Start from the bottom. Okay. Build a strong organization, starts from the front line. Get those folks engaged, solving the problems that are frustrating them. As they get confidence, then you train the managers, and the managers start putting out projects. We call them blue cards that define the what and the why and a scope. And the employees have had wins and seen benefits to them. I mean, tell them we need this so that the owner can make a lot more money. Nobody cares. But make it so their back doesn't hurt. Make it so that they can get more satisfaction. Now you want to change an organization or not, okay? If you want to change an organization, you got to change the people first, and you start to build from there. And as they build confidence, suddenly they take on. This is the thing that drives me crazy. I do strategic planning with companies. They put together plans and they put together vision. And then they take the plan that they want and they make it smaller and smaller and smaller. I said, what are you doing? They said, well, our people can't do that. So I said, now you subverted it down. This big idea is now something not worth doing because that's all your employees could do. Well, I got to tell you, your problem is your freaking people. Fix your culture. Fix your people. And just even saying culture change, the BS meter goes off. Everybody listening to this saying, yeah, right. You're not going to. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've got a distillery. Now, it was easier because I took people in who were, I'm sorry. I took people in, and the only way you worked for us is if you worked on systems and you took responsibility. So we set them up from the beginning. We trained them in the beginning, and that's how they started their job, and they didn't know anything else. We took young people, and they're amazing. And just me saying, young people today are amazing. There's a whole lot of people saying, yeah, right, I got droids. You're right. When you give them what and why, and you enable and empower them, they're amazing. And if you don't, they're the worst puke heads on earth. Because back at Procter Gamble, they would tell me to do something. I'd stay there at 8 o'clock. I didn't know why I was doing it because we just did it. Today, you try to do that, they'll say, the hell with you. Now, who's the idiot? Me? For sitting there until 8 o'clock, just married to this incredible woman and not going home because I just do what I'm told? Or the ones today who say, I don't get it.
Yeah, good point. I've long been a believer that if you give people want more responsibility, they want to do more. They want to grow in their jobs. And really what happens is I think a lot of times the leaders just don't trust them and don't let them do it. And I love this idea that you're going to the employees and saying, look, what I'm hearing is what's not working for you, right? The woman's back hurt. It wasn't working for her. It's not what's not working for the organization, but what is your problem?
But that's where you start, because that's where you get their engagement. And then you can start to work on the bigger things. But you've got to start with that stuff that gets them engaged. And we actually, it was, I'm prone to, like Ben Franklin, use weird spelling and capitalization. And Tom Peters and Ben Franklin both did that same thing. And I do it as well. So it's proactive with all caps on both the training program and the book. Proactive problem solving, because what you want to get is them driving, them looking, the people close to the work. No, when you're working on a big new product, go to the people close to the work. They will problem solve and figure it out if you've got them engaged. And it's getting their engagement that's the key. So we start with those things. I guarantee you, I will transform your culture. You put people through the training, they will be transformed. In fact, the bigger problem is you got to keep the managers on it, because once the employees get lit, you better be ready to manage proactive people, because if you don't, they're going to quit. They're going to quit, and they're going to go to a place where they can, because once they find that they can have joy in work, because that's what people want. They want joy in work. And I mean, the real purpose of proactive problem solving is joy in work. That's it. That's it. And when they have joy in work, everybody else, everything else works. The owner makes money, everybody's happy. Try to make money and you'll fail. And light up your people to truly become proactive problem solvers, and you got it.
All right. So what do you do to actually get them thinking about that? So you got them, so you started with that first step, you've got them engaged, you've got them, they've solved some problems, but what's that next step to get them into that proactive problem solving and looking for those problems?
So the principle we have is sphere of influence, and it actually came from Kevin Cahill, who is Dr. Deming's grandson, who runs the Deming Institute. And he says, everybody has a sphere of influence where they can do things. Okay. And to your point, we don't want the inmates running the asylum. I mean, this is not about letting them go crazy and do that. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is start with the sphere of influence. So say you've got a work team and they've got frustrations like the lady with the back, or I've got multiples of those stories that I can tell you. And start with them where they've got control over that sphere of influence. Then they work on their work to improve the systems. Okay. You don't bring experts in, they do the work to do it, because you teach them how to do this. Okay. And then they change the SOP and you get approval to the new SOP and you've got a system. Then their team leader starts to work on team projects. Then that team with the next team. So the team that, say you're an IT group and you've got stuff comes in and stuff goes out. You got customers coming in and customers going out from your IT group. Then you start to work with maybe the people coming in and you improve the systems between your work unit and the next the work unit feeding into you. Okay. And you keep doing this and expanding it until you get to the department and the division and the corporation. And so now that's how you do it. You grow it from the bottom up. The key is you've got to educate. And that's why Proactive Problem Solving, the book, was ready a year ago. We ran a pilot with people across companies, large, small, nonprofit, for-profit, and because we give a lot of scholarships to small businesses. Okay, I've always been, because we're crazy expensive, but rich people can pay it, so that's good. I like take it from rich people, the big companies. But small businesses, we give huge scholarships to help them out on all of our work that we do, the training and stuff. And we brought them together. And they said, this is spectacular. It's going to work with the employees. And if you ship this, I'll kill you. I said, that's a bit severe. I said, okay, I'm exaggerating. One of the CEOs said. He says, but if you light up my employees and you don't get my managers and my executive team bought in, you're going to cause chaos for us. So we pulled the book. We pulled Proactive Problem Solving. And instead, what we did is we built a training and in the book, I explained, here's the basic thing for employees. The book itself is only 50,000 words instead of 150,000 like my other books, because I wanted it as simple and clear as possible for everybody to be approached. Not right, really simple how to. And then we have a program for the manager, and then we have a separate program for the executives. And now we light it up at the bottom. We teach the executives. Now we're going to change your culture from the top down and the bottom up, and also the middle part, which is the key part. That's where these programs usually fall apart, is the people in the middle, the managers. And so when we got the 3 tiers of training and we started to do that, then they said, this rocks. And that's when we gave the go ahead for Proactive Problem Solving to come out.
So how do you keep from allowing the whole idea of systems from taking over? I've seen this before where everybody's caught up and we're building the system. Pretty soon what you have is everybody's working on policies and procedures and nobody's actually doing any work. And they're stuck in, I have to follow the system. I can't do my thing. So how do you balance with, you've got people that you're delegating to, you want the front line to solve their problems, but at the same time you go, but here's the system. So how do you combine those two?
Well, that's why they need training. They need training because most people don't know how to work with systems. I mean, Dr. Deming
I
pioneered this
agree.
stuff, and we have gone forward. It starts with the aim of the system. The aim of 90+% of systems that put in reactively because they don't know the difference between special cause and common cause. Special cause, it's a random error that just happened. It's not going to happen again. You take that and put it in systems, you got needless bureaucracy. Common cause, you need to understand common cause, which I explain in proactive problem solving. But what you have to do is the aim of the system to control and constrain or to enable. Okay. And so the first principle is the systems I'm talking about are to enable people to do great things, to do their work, to get the junk out of the way so we can use that incredibly wonderful brain they have that we hired them for. We took a lot of time to hire them because they were going to this way, and then we don't treat them that way, is to get them engaged. And so the first part is make sure the aim of the system is as much to enable as it is to control. And then the other thing is you have to build in a culture. How many people, they're doing an ISO thing, they write a whole bunch of systems, they put them in a book and they never use them. I go into a company, they show me your SOPs and do it. First I go, oh, I've never seen one. Well, you've never seen one? And you're running this line and you haven't seen it? You go into my Rainbow Distillery, they'll bring the book right to you and do it. And they'll show it. And here's the important thing. The way I quantify the transformation, because boards and executives want to quantify it, is the number of changes in your SOP, your standard operating procedures. So it's about the second part is first is the aim, and the second is never-ending continuous improvement of the SOP. Okay? Never-ending continuous improvement. And yes, with small companies, sometimes they're not written and they're word of mouth, and we do it that way to begin, but we want to get them to written systems, written SOPs. And every time that SOP means, that means a person has made you go. I go CEO and I said, how would you like to have 3 improvements to the SOP, every couple of months by every employee? It'd be a miracle, they say. I said, that's what I'm talking about doing. And they get a sense of accomplishment that not only is their work better, but the work for others is better. And it's documented changed, not random change, because we got to be prudent about how we do it for insurance purposes and everything else. And so when they have and they're looking for ways to work smarter and faster. A group that I was working with just yesterday, they had a team that was doing, they do assembly. So other vendors make parts and then they do an assembly thing. And they had work teams, and their work teams were doing an average of 5 machines. They're pretty complicated machines, 5 machines a day. That 5 machines a day went from over 6 months. It went from them, same team, making 5 machines to 10 machines to 22 machines. So I just heard yesterday their goal for this year is 40 machines a day by that same work team. That's what we're talking about. That is the promise of Deming. That is the promise of systems. That is what proactive problem solving is about. This is not a little thing. This is not could be. Heck, I'd be just on my sailboat sailing right now. I mean, I'm in Social Security now, okay? So I'm old. And so, it's time, but this is like a cause that is because the people want to do great things. Managers want to do great things. Are you having fun as a CEO today? No, you're not. I know it because you're dealing with junk. You can't go on vacation because you got to deal with it and you worry. I'm giving you freedom through enabling your asset, as you said in the beginning, they're already there. You're paying for them. Why don't you get a full ROI out of them?
Yeah. So let me ask a today post-COVID question, which is, okay, you have a lot of businesses where you have some employees are in the office, some employees are out of the office. How do you deal with that in these systems that you're creating when they're not, when you're in the office, you have that conversation with each other. It's easy. How are you dealing with that with this hybrid work environment?
Well, and I got to tell you, my personal views on this is I hate it all, and it's very frustrating, and it drives me crazy. And I mean, I live in a historic home, and I got 80 acres here in Cincinnati, a beautiful lake and that. And so I built the Eureka Ranch and the distillery because it's like the family farm. I could just walk over to it. So I really love people in person, but I got to get over that because that's not the case.
It's not. It's not. There's just
So I can continue to whine about it,
yep.
deal with it. Now the good news is the bigger problem is me getting used to this digital stuff. It's not my first thing, but these young people, they do it without even blinking.
They do.
And I mean, the company I was with yesterday, there were people up on the screen participating in the session at the same time, and they don't think anything of it. To me, it's weird. It's weird. I don't like it personally. It's not how I like to do it, but that's the new reality. And so you use those digital systems, and these digital systems, and the Eureka Ranch has had to build. We've got a whole software platform, a PDS, Plan, Do, Study, Act, a PDA app for doing projects digitally and for managing your projects digitally. And we've got create tools that are digital. And there's a whole suite of things that when people go through the proactive problem solving training that we have built to make that easier to do. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not building them. I got really smart young people who are building what they need to do their stuff because like our head of training lives in Maine. The ranch is in Cincinnati. I traveled 3 million air miles. So I'm usually all over the place. And it's actually become liberating, but I still get a little frustrated. So you can do it, but you got to commit yourself to the systems and stop whining about it.
Got it. I like that. All right. So if if you're talking to a small business and you're saying, okay, owner, CEO, here's 3 things that you ought to be doing that you could do in the next couple of weeks. What would those 3 things be?
Well, the first thing before you even begin is you have to be honest with yourself and say, do you believe in your people that you've got? Because if you don't truly believe in them, then fire them and get some new ones. Because if you don't believe, this won't work. Because they smell it. These young people are really good.
They do.
They know it when you're full of it.
Yep.
Okay? So you either care about them and truly care about them and commit yourself to changing the system. My dad worked with Dr. Deming when he first came back to the US and time, as I mentioned. And he had Alzheimer's in the end and passed. And his mind was gone, and he would sometimes recognize me, sometimes not. But whenever I said Deming, he would say, management. Management's the problem. And he would say, 94% of the problem is management, 6% is the worker, because only management can change the system. I mean, it was so deep in his being that he would say this coherent statement. And it was all, I mean, you giggled because, that's how deep it was in my dad, which is part of why it's ironic that I did proactive problem solving that is so much more aligned to where my dad was versus the big innovations that I did at this point in life. But so management, you've got to now take responsibility for the system. So first you care about them and you believe you've got them. And you'll be shocked because people you think who whine a lot, oftentimes they're the ones that care. And when you enable them, you're going to be amazed. I've seen teams where somebody says, I volunteered to be the project leader on this. And people are like, oh no, he's terrible. No, it's because they care, but they don't know how to verbalize it. And so you got to put in the systems. You got to first start with what and why. How, what's the problem and why? So if you're talking to somebody, asking about something, take the time to explain what the problem is you need help with and why it matters. What and why. Then the second stage, which is actually the second stage of the proactive problem solving book. The first is identifying the problem. The second is creating ideas. To create ideas, what you've got to do is there's 3 principles, and this has been published in academic journals that we've done and in my books that I've written. There's 3 things for creating ideas. You need to get stimulus, diversity, and drive out fear. Stimulus is get them to go know more. And so challenge them if they come to you with the problem is, how could we learn more about this? How could we learn more? Second is diversity. It's an exponential kick. Who could we talk to about this? Who could we learn for? Is there another company that's doing this? So the first one, you go on the internet. I mean, it's easy now these times. Then we get this, and then now you've got the idea with the stimulus and diversity. So what can we learn? Who can we talk to? And then people will get ideas, but they'll kill them. So the last thing is to drive out fear, and you drive out fear by experimenting. And you say, how could we fail fast, fail cheap? That's the straight talk way of saying it.
Yep.
The Deming world, it's plan, do, study, act. It's a disciplined cycle, not check. It's study. That's how new stuff's discovered, which I explain in the Procter Problem Solving book. But you say, how can we try a little experiment? And fail fast, fail cheap, run it, get a hypothesis, try a little experiment, and teach them and get this into the culture. And then having done that, the last thing is to how you accelerate it. And that's a matter of now you're going to have to get enrollment. And that's where things like the communications and how we define ideas. We have a whole system where we define, like say it's a new offering we're going to do or something we're going to do for our distribution system. We do customer, problem, promise, and proof. And we have the same format all the time so that we get clarity of what our ideas are. Because communications was one of the big things we found is people say an idea, management says no, and it's because they didn't understand it because the employee didn't do a good job explaining it.
No, I agree. So the book is Proactive Problem Solving, or my subtitle for the book would be Stop the Stupid. And I love that. Our guest has been Doug Hall on the Wealthability Show. Doug, where can they get more information about what you do?
So the Proactive Problem Solving, the book, as well as the workshop that we do for you, for your folks that they get certified in and your managers, go to eurekaranch.com. That's EUREKA ranch.com. Is the website. And I know there's a lot of small businesses. Don't get scared off by all the big companies. We offer ridiculous scholarships. We have a thing called Planet Eureka, Ideas for a Better World. And part of what keeps me, I mean, at one point, a big company came to buy me and they said, we're going to buy you and do this, but we're going to stop all that small business stuff you do. And I said, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. The answer is no. They said, what do you mean it's no? I said, then you will kill my soul. Because yes, big corporations, it's wonderful to work with them, but my heart and soul is with these people. They said, but you don't make any money. I said, you have a ready grasp of the obvious. Because the fees we charge for small businesses. So if you just go to eurekaranch.com, and if you want to learn about my foolishness, if you just go to DougHall.com, I've got a blog and you can sign up for that and hear my dribble and stuff like that we put out as well.
I love it. Thanks so much, Doug, and love your passion. I love your passion for the capabilities of the workers because I'm a huge believer in that. Long believe that I've actually launched more businesses because of employees who said, well, hey, you taught me how to run the business, so now I can go run my own business. And that's probably the thing I'm proudest of over the last 40 years, how many businesses we've launched. And that's what I'm hearing you saying is, look, when they're passionate about the business, when they're passionate about what they're doing, they will find the problems, they'll get engaged, and then they'll actually help you create the systems. And then it works from the bottom up. It's the front line. And when that happens, what we're always going to find, we're going to make way more money. I mean, if you're producing 40 machines a day instead of 5 machines a day for a team, that last I checked, that's 8 times the production, which means that it's either 8 times the money or 1/8 of the cost. Either one works. And when we do it in everything we do it in our investments, we always make way more money and pay way less tax. Join us on the next Wealthability Show. And if you love what Doug's doing, please go to his book, Proactive Problem Solving. Go to eurekaranch.com and follow us and send this out to your CEO friends. Send this out to your business owner and entrepreneur friends because, man, my experience in my lifetime has been systems and people will make you or they'll break you. Thanks, everyone.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.